Welcome back to another episode of the AfterHours podcast. I'm your host, Francisco. Today's a little bit different. I'm actually joined with both my co-hosts today, and we have nobody on the other side of the microphone, but that is because we're doing a little bit of a recap on our first year in business here at the AfterHours podcast, a little bit of a retrospective with the boys, and I'm glad to be here with Dan and Joey. What's going on, guys?
Hey, Frankie, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. This is unlike any of the other podcasts we've ever done, so it'll be cool to just sit back and relax with you guys and, have a couple drinks.
100%.
So, Joey, what you drinking right now?
I'm drinking a rye from Chicken Cock Whiskey. Greg Snyder gave it to us a few weeks ago on our podcast with him, and it's great. What do you guys think of it?
Oh, it's phenomenal. We downed the bourbon like we were fish. So, we have about half a bottle of the rye left, and hopefully by the end of this episode, that'll be gone too.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have any proof alcoholic ice cream left over. But
oh man, all right. I think that's probably a pretty good place to start. Then Proof was the first guest that we had on that sent us a product, and I think it's still the only ice cream that I've had that was alcoholic, and that was one of the most novel products we've had on the show for sure.
As far as just everything we've had, I gotta say that one was my favorite, just because it's very different. You're not expecting to have alcohol and ice cream, but it's there, and oh my gosh, it's so good.
All right, so boys, we released our first episode April 20th of 2020, and currently as we're recording this, it is 4/23/21, so literally like the year mark. What did you guys first think when we were starting out this podcast?
To be honest, Frankie, not much. I think we were just kind of doing it. I don't want to say for fun because we were always serious about it, but it was just something we were doing because we enjoyed doing it. It was nice to kind of take a break from work and meet with the guests and chat with them at the end of the day.
Yeah, when we first started, I just love to do podcasts. So when they said that they wanted to start a podcast, I was all on board. Not gonna lie, didn't know a whole lot about the alcohol or beverage industry, but let me tell you, I have learned a lot in the last year, and I'm really looking forward to see what I learn in the future. I feel very more sophisticated. I know all about sniffing whiskey. It smells delicious, and I can't wait to smell some more whiskey.
Yeah, a year ago, none of us, well, Joey and I have never done anything in audio or media, any content creation really.
But luckily, we did plenty on the drinking side.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say. We were able to compensate on that side because Dan actually has a pretty extensive background when it comes to media content of actually all varieties, not just audio or digital. So yeah, Dan, what was the first podcast you ever did, or produced?
First podcast. I've done some really weird ones. The first one that I did where I actually did more than just like a couple episodes was it's called Straight Out of College. Basically, the idea of it was I was, out of college, and I interviewed people that were either on their senior year of college or just graduated, and I interviewed whatever was on their mind about going from college to post-college and how that transition is, because it's an interesting transition for sure. Absolutely, and I think that fits pretty well with working with Joey and I, because we're all just fresh out of college. I graduated in 2019. Currently getting my master's, and I know Dan, I think 2019 as well, right? December 2019, right before. Yeah.
And then
happened.
I'd known Joey forever because we were in the same fraternity, so we were all very close in age, and then we started working together at Winhouse Software. Which is where the original inspiration for Bar Crawl came from. And then AfterHours, learning more about the food and beverage industry, so we were more aware of our market for when Bar Crawl released. And then we actually got a really good team together between all of us and Joe and Evan and Matt. So that was pretty awesome.
Going into Bar Crawl, because, that is one of the reasons why I wanted to start the AfterHours podcast, was to kind of get to know more about the industry. What inspired you to get Bar Crawl going? So that was your idea to start off.
Okay. Saying it was my idea, that's not fair to the rest of the boys. Mostly because I had pitched this idea in, I think, my sophomore year of college here at the University of Toledo, and it was for a marketing class, and you had to come up with some revolutionary idea or application that you had to pitch in front of the class. So think of mini Shark Tank. That's essentially what was happening, and it was for a large project. at the end of the semester. So originally it was like an application called like Usher, because at the time I went to like a lot of UFC fights and soccer games and just like a lot of sporting events. And so I was like, man, like I just need to know where I can go on any given night to find like good deals and know like what pay-per-view events are being, displayed, or if I want to go somewhere for a specific, comedy night or like live music, whatever it is. I just want to know where all the hot spots are in my area. And it was originally called Usher because, you get ushered to your seat whenever you go to like a venue, like a sporting event. Well, anyway, that was my sophomore year, and then I got put on the back burner after the project for, 2.5 years almost. And in that time, I started talking with my roommate, Evan, who's a software engineer, and then our good friend, Matt, and then Joey and Dan. And so we all just kind of came together and we're like, hey, like we could actually like make this like a viable product. So then Usher became Bar Crawl, and Bar Crawl is similar to that, but it has a lot more functionality and it's a lot more user focused in the sense that there's like group chats, there's think like snap maps where you can see like where your friends are and stuff like that. So the premise is still pretty similar of just going out, having a good time, being safe, and getting the best deals in your area, but there's a lot more human focus towards it now.
And keep an eye out for that here in the next 6 months.
Yep.
For whenever Corona's over.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so Dan, I got a good question for you. Since you are the one that does almost all of the production and you have to listen to all of our podcasts back, so if Joey and I fuck up a lot, you're the one that usually has to edit it out. So what is one thing that annoyed you the most when we first started? Because I know me and Joey just did a lot of dumb shit that probably just annoyed you when you had to go back and edit.
I'd say it's a mixture between two things. The first thing, when you talk, you don't wanna say stuff and like about stuff like. So that's really bad. And so you might notice in the earlier podcast that like you don't hear that. That's because I had to manually edit all of those out to make them not sound like barbarians. So that wasn't fun. The other one, which was a real fun one, was I'm saying right now. Great, now I'm doing it.
Yeah, but cut yourself out.
Gotta cut myself out. The other thing was how they would phrase questions. So ideally, you don't just want to read off of a script. You want to kind of have the question come off more naturally. The way that question would be asked would be very robotic. And so sometimes it's better to just cut to the question than it is to add this like phrase beforehand to make it sound more natural, but it doesn't actually sound natural. It sounds weird and like robotic. So that was another one. It was just kind of repetitive stuff.
Have we gotten better?
Oh, 100%.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah, you guys have gotten way better at talking.
I can recall about 50 times through our first 7 podcasts where Dan's like, can you say 10 more times, please? Because I'd already said it 50 times in the first 5 minutes, and he's like, no, just stop.
There's actually one video I remember making where one of the things
blooper.
One of the things that Frankie did is right before he would ask a question, he would go, and so
exposed.
So what I did for one episode, I was like, okay, it's all done, and I took every time Frankie would go, and it was just about a minute and a half long of him going, just clearing his throat. So that was pretty funny.
That was really embarrassing. He put it in the group chat with everyone, and I just got absolutely roasted for like 48 hours.
Yeah. So he doesn't do it anymore.
Yeah, I try. I try not to.
Yeah. That's like one of the cool things with doing podcasts is even if you're not experienced with it, it gives you the capability of like listening back to it and learning from how you talk and learning how to improve how you talk. So that's one of the cool things that you kind of get out of doing podcasts.
Agreed. And Dan, at the start of the episode, you said we've learned so much in the past year, right? And we were just kind of touching on how we've kind of gotten better about how we're saying Frankie clearing his throat and whatnot. What do you think, in your opinion, is the biggest thing you've learned or the most important thing you've learned in the past year?
I guess this is kind of more on the production side of things, but the biggest thing I learned was how to make a podcast as efficiently as possible while also not getting too nitpicky. So there's like a fine yin-yang. You have to like find the happy medium. So like you could take out every single space, but then it might take a million years to make the episode. But then on the other side, you could just kind of skim through it, but then the quality is not at the highest peak. So I guess what I've learned is how to make a podcast sound as good and as crisp as possible with the best amount of time spent on it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just kind of like a technicality thing. I'd say another thing is, I mean, like I said at the beginning, I knew nothing about beverages in the past, and now I know a lot more. And it's definitely, it's really cool to be able to learn more about the beverage industry. There's a lot to it that I didn't really know about it in the past. You know, when I hear wine testing or like you have all your different bourbons and whiskeys and all your craft beer. In the past, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's all the same. You know, beers, you know, just tastes great. You just drink it and you get drunk. But now it's like, no. Like you got your stouts. They tend to have like a chocolatey kind of taste to it. And you have whiskeys. They can have different tastes to them. Where maybe it tastes. You can have a little sense of caramel to it. Like there's
depending on how long it's been in the barrel, depending on where the whiskey was stored. And kind of touching on that, Dan, it's like old. Okay, restarting.
No, I'm keeping that in. We're not restarting, Joe.
Okay.
This is a one taken out.
Kind of touching on that. I learned a lot about whiskey, wine, bourbon, just everything in the whole space, beer. And one thing, it's like wine, like you said, wine pairings. It's like, okay, you paired this wine, this cheese with this bread or however it may be. And then like wine, old world and new world wine, it's like a year ago I would have been like, oh, one's from the 1500s and the other is from the nowadays, but it's like that's not what it is, obviously. So it just learning stuff like that is super amazing, and we've had so many great guests that have taught us a lot, and just the knowledge we've learned in the past year is amazing.
Yeah, there's our favorite saying, you know what you know, you know what you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. And that was just one of those things where you didn't know what you didn't know until we actually did the podcast, talked to all the experts. And like once we learn more and more about it, it's kind of like that scene in Ratatouille where he takes the cheese and he takes the strawberry and he gets struck by lightning and it's got like this kind of bolty taste to it. It's just, it's a game changer.
I could go for some of that right now.
Oh, for sure.
The Ratatouille, not the lightning, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to break down a couple of the tools that we use for anybody that's listening. And while we're talking about us starting our podcast, we use Zencastr. Any of our previous guests, they know we use Zencastr. It is a platform in which you can record multiple audio tracks for each guest that joins the podcast platform. It's all online, and all of the audio is back saved. So if anybody like loses power or anything, we always have it. And coming soon, Zencastr actually just released video. So either if we're doing it in person, it'll be with a camera, or if it's over Zencastr, we'll still have like a webcam set up. So video will be coming pretty soon, and then also we just launched our new website, so check that out. But that's the tool we use for our platform. And then Dan, what do you use for post-production?
Post-production, I'm all about that Adobe. So everything I do for work, for everything, relates to Adobe. If it's for design, if it's for audio production, if it's for video production. So yes, it's expensive, but because I'm what are those knife thingy calls where it does everything? You got like the
Swiss Army knife.
I'm a Swiss Army knife. I do a little bit of all of it. So it is expensive, but I use all of it.
So what do you use specifically for audio?
So audio, it's called Adobe Audition.
Okay.
So what I'll do to start off is I'll edit the actual mixing of it, so I'll make sure that everything's the right volume, make sure that there's no like white noise in the background, and that everything's as crisp as it could possibly sound. And then when that's all saved, I'll take it into the master file, and I'll edit everything together, and then I'll just cut it up from there.
Very cool. And then I was going to say real quick, we actually somebody reached out on our Instagram, the AfterHours cast, and they had asked what we use for our shorties. Our shorties are like the small like clips of a segment that we use. We put them on our social media, so I don't know if it's a different software or not.
Yep. So for the shorties, so I'll start off. The template I have for those guys is I believe I use I do use After Effects, but I start off with Photoshop for making the template, and then when all of the graphics are done, I'll send that over to After Effects, and I'll use After Effects to do like all the audio waves and the actual video effects of the video. Now I want to go back to Zencastr.
Okay.
Because Zencastr, it's been good, but also I mean, it's good. It's just sometimes things don't work out. So I'm curious about you guys. Do you have any favorite memories trying to set up Zencastr and having any technical issues?
Oh, I got a couple good ones.
I got a couple good ones too. The one that comes to the top of my mind, I can't remember exactly who the guest was, but so Frankie and I had finished recording the episode. So as far as setting it up, I think we've only had an issue with 1 to 2 times as far as the setup goes, and people trying to get into the platform.
It's not friendly for like mobile users.
Mobile or Mac, it's not very friendly, but any Windows system operates it fine.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to the story, Frankie and I had completed an episode. It was about 2 hours long, and I believe this was before they had the cloud feature to where it saved automatically to the cloud. So we were done, and then the guest leaves, and then it had a little red sign that said corrupted. Frank and I looked at each other. We were like, no. So we were like searching it, figuring it out. It was still corrupted. We refreshed it. We're like, what do we do? And then we figured out the guest just had to join back. So we called them up. They joined back. It turned green, and Frank and I looked at each other like, thank God, because, 2-hour episode, and when the flow is going natural and you're in the middle of an episode, it's kind of hard to recreate that feeling if you do a second podcast. So that was my scariest moment. I know Frankie's got a few more. He's usually the setup man.
Yeah, so similar to Joey's, it was an issue at the end of the podcast where, I can't remember if somebody like lost power. I think someone lost power at like the very end of the episode. So what happened was the file got corrupted, and only our audio track was saved. So our audio track, meaning like Joey and I on our side of the mic, and then whoever we had on the other side, their audio file was saved locally on their device. So I couldn't access it, and I was really afraid that like nobody was gonna be able to access it. But luckily, our great guests, and they were great guests, and it was the Spotted.
Spotted Owl?
No, it was Spotty Dog. It was Spotty Dog, Books and Ale, yeah. And they were actually able to get on Zencastr and then download their episode to their local device, and then I got it Dropbox to me. And that was like a really great episode because it was one of the only places in America that is like Barnes & Noble kind of style, where they have books, but then they also have a complete tap room for ales and ciders. So that was really cool, and I would have been absolutely heartbroken if that one didn't work out, but that was definitely the most scared I ever was, because it was at like 9 p.m. at night, and like we were just finished, and I was like, oh my God, and I was just scared.
But as Frankie had mentioned before, the new feature does allow everything to be instantly saved to the cloud, so rest assured your audio is fine when being on the After Hours podcast.
Yeah, so worst case scenario is you have to get back on Zencastr and then just download it and Dropbox it to me. That's the absolute worst case scenario.
By the way, Zencastr, we are looking for sponsor opportunities. Yep. Throwing it out there.
# spawn.
No. But no, my personal favorite was with Daniel Whittington over with the Whiskey Vault. So we got this interview with Daniel Whittington, the whiskey legend, and of course, as we're setting up, it's just everything is breaking, nothing's working. So we ended up having to use a different platform. I forgot what it was.
Maybe we used Zoom.
Zoom.
Yeah.
We got like the free trial or something. And this is like a half-hour process, and I felt really bad because like we're wasting Daniel's time, and like he's gotta get his kids in bed and everything. So like I was like, come on. It was painful, but we ended up getting the episode out, and I'm so happy we were able to get that episode out. It was a really good one.
Yeah. So what you guys might not know is we usually record episodes, I would say
2 to 3 weeks.
2 to like 5 weeks in advance. And when we record, they can be any time, day or night. I mean, when we have guests that are in like New Zealand or in Britain or any part of Europe, there's such a big time difference, and especially with like all of our work schedules, it's really hard to match up. So sometimes you get podcasts that are at midnight Eastern time, which is where we are, and then sometimes we're doing them I think at 8 a.m. we did one for
like
for the Craft Beer Channel.
Craft Beer Channel, yeah.
And that was in Europe. So so when these get recorded, it's usually, I would say, on average, like a month out from when they get posted on our site and they get posted on all of the platforms. So yeah, just so you guys know, it can be a journey to get to that stage, because it can be a scheduling nightmare sometimes.
The worst is New Zealand. It's what, 16-hour difference?
It's
12, 14, some maybe 16.
No, it's 18.
18.
It's an entire day difference.
Oh yeah, you're right, because they're the first one is the next day. Shout out to all the Kiwis that listen to the podcast.
Yep. Appreciate you guys.
Yep, we had a great episode with Carousel Bar.
And Still It.
And Still It.
Yep, and Still It in New Zealand. Both phenomenal guests. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for being on the show.
Yep. When we first started this podcast, Joey, I'll let you take it back. So we first started recording in November of 2019,
Yep.
but we didn't release until April.
Yep.
So what was that process like?
It was, as Frankie said, it was about a, 6 month span before we released the first episode. So the reason for that, we were kind of trying to accumulate a few different 4 to 6 or maybe even 8 episodes before we started, just because we didn't know how many people would be kind of interested in how many people we could find to be on the show. So we recorded the first 6 to 8. A lot of people local, some friends and family who own bars, and then we were like, okay, we have 8, so let's release them. Which our first we released 4 on April, was it 20th, 21st last year?
420.
Yep. Last year, and we had another 4 in the backlog ready to go. And then since then everything's been flowing. We usually get about 2 guests per week, 1.5 to 2 guests per week, and we have some people reaching out to us now, and we release an episode every week, and it's pretty much been free flowing since then.
Yep.
This is a quick request to anyone in Toledo too. I know we've done quite a bit of Toledo bars, but there's also a metric poop ton of bars we have not done. So if there's anyone out there who's looking to get on the After Hours podcast, we'd love to get in touch with you guys. I know there's a lot of really good establishments that we'd love to get in touch with.
And beyond Toledo too, if you guys know anybody that's interested in being on the show, or if you're listening and you're interested in being on the show and you're in the food and beverage industry, please reach out. And if it's in like the greater Toledo area, or even like Detroit or Cleveland, we can do it in person. Mm-hmm. And then if it's pretty distant,
even if it's within 4 or 5 hours, if you guys want to do it in person, we'd love to drive to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of driving,
what?
So we want to go on a vacation, right?
Oh yeah.
You want to go on a trip?
It's all you do.
You start it off, Dan.
Okay, I'll start it off. So, we've mentioned in our previous episodes, one of the things we want to do, we still got to schedule it. We're kind of waiting on Corona to end and all that, but we really want to go on an after-hours venture through probably America. We probably won't be able to go to New Zealand or Europe, but we'll start off with America.
Yeah.
And we want to just travel around to all the different locations that we've interviewed and just meet up, grab a drink, and hang out and just visit all the different places. Because there's so many cool places that we've gotten the opportunity to interview.
Yep, and for you people who have food, we've checked your websites for all the different options too. We're going to get some food, some drinks, and we're really excited for both those.
Yeah, every guest that we've had on is super welcoming, and we've pretty much got an invitation to every place that we've interviewed. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I think we've done damn near like half of the United States, like 25 states. So we could definitely make a tour out of this. Mm-hmm. We talked about this like a little bit before, but like if we started up in like Montreal or like up in Toronto, up in the north, worked our way down like the East Coast, and then
head to like New York after that, and then because we have a few bars in Canada. Yep.
So then work our way down the East Coast, and then get down to like Tennessee, Georgia, Florida area, Arkansas.
Yeah. We got to head over to the West Coast though.
Yeah. I know. Oh, that's what I'm saying.
It's a trip.
We're mapping out the whole. We still got to map out the whole tour, but it's gonna happen. You guys will see it. We'll be posting videos, Snapchat stories, maybe even TikTok if it's still relevant when this is over.
Turn into a documentary.
Who knows? Yep.
I was going to say, because us three, and then if Joe comes along, Joe is a phenomenal photographer and videographer, so he's done some of our work. Actually, he's done all of our in-person shoots, so any of our social media that has pictures, it's Joe English, so shout out. And I think if us four went on a road trip, we could create some killer content.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed. So that's pretty awesome.
And then Frankie kind of mentioned something about our guests being amazing, and that's something I kind of wanted to touch on.
Yeah,
every single guest, literally every single one of you guys we've had on the show has been, first of all, very knowledgeable in your space and very welcoming to not only being interviewed and letting us interview you, but also to your community as a whole. I think everybody we have talked to has just talked about how much they work with other bar and restaurant owners in the community and how they all help each other out, and I think it's just amazing to have interviewed so many great people through the past year.
Honest to God, yeah, it's pretty incredible that we've interviewed over 50 people, and not one of them I have a complaint about. I mean, from like initial messages or like emails to like scheduling, and then getting them on the podcast. I mean, the entire process that I've had has been smooth, and everybody, you guys are awesome. So really appreciate it. And then obviously the hospitality when we come through, we appreciate the invites. So looking forward to hanging out with all you guys.
Now, if you had to pick,
Oh boy.
if you had to pick one, which one was your favorite episode?
Okay, so I know what mine is, and it's partly because it was in person. And so when you're in person and there's a lot of good stories being told and you're drinking a little bit, it's just a different atmosphere. And I really enjoyed being up in Ann Arbor for the Blind Pig. So the Blind Pig was pretty unique because it's not a bar or a brewery or a distillery, right? It was a little bit more abstract to what our normal niche is. So it's a nightclub and a music venue up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, right by the University of Michigan. And that was a really great experience because we got to interview their talent director who had worked his way from just an assistant music talent acquisition back in like the 80s and 90s, and now he's running this entire operation up in Ann Arbor. So it's like a really incredible experience, and they've had so many mainstream guests throughout the years. So that was pretty cool, and he had no shortage of stories. So that was a really enjoyable one for me.
Yeah, and kind of going off what Frankie said, he had been in the kind of music industry for the past 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So his stories were they were crazy to say the least. And if you go back to listen to the episode, I can't remember exactly what one it was, probably around 15 to 20.
Yep.
Definitely listen to that episode when you get a chance because he's
Eminem, Mac Miller,
Yep.
Wiz, a lot of like the mainstream like rappers that we know today are coming up through the ranks. 24K
he knew them
Golden.
like 15 years ago,
Yeah.
and he knows a lot of the up and coming rapper or artists, hip hop, whatever now as well.
Young Gravy, 24K Golden.
Stop.
Whoa!
But Dan, I mean this might be a little bit different for you because you're a host on some of the episodes. I would say probably about 25%.
Yeah.
And then you get to hear us back the other 75%. So I guess if you were not a host of one of them, what was your most enjoyable one to listen back to as like an objective third party?
Okay, I'm gonna answer that one, but then I'm also gonna
But then of
answer
course you gotta talk about your favorite one that you were on.
favorite one I was on.
For sure.
So the favorite one that I listened to, I think, was definitely Manhattan's.
Okay.
Just because the story behind Zach Lahey of starting Manhattan's up was just super amazing. What he started from and what he built Manhattan's to be is just really inspiring. So if you're looking for a super inspirational story, you gotta check out the Manhattan's episode. It's actually
a two-parter.
Went on so long. I think it was 4-hour episodes, so we had to split it up into 2 episodes. So it definitely took a fat minute for me to edit it. But it was really worth it. It was such a good, inspirational story. And like he's just one of those leaders in the Toledo community where Toledo is on the rise. And I know there's a lot of haters out there that don't believe it, but just the direction that Toledo's going, it's people like Zach that's making it possible.
Yeah, and that episode was actually in person. Dan was there. It was Frankie, me, Frankie, Dan, and Zach, and we had a few old fashions, hung out for a few hours, and it was a great time.
Yep, and his background is in arts and play production, I believe.
Yep.
So yeah, anything that he is telling, I mean, it's like listening to music. All of his stories are phenomenal.
Yep.
Had a great was it Russian accent?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's no shortage of accents. With him.
He's got them all. I mean, we think we have a few. I mean, we haven't put any on the podcast.
We got a big Pittsburgh accent there, buddy.
Frankie's got a good Canadian one. Maybe you guys will hear that one.
Maybe a little bit later.
Maybe not. Though. Yeah. Probably not.
Maybe not.
And Dan, what was your favorite one that you were a host on?
Yeah. So the favorite one I was on, this is an early one. It's definitely got to be Joystick Game Bar. Those are just the most rowdiest, funnest, greatest group of people. Sorry, I can't speak. It was just a blast talking to these guys. Everything I asked, they would just respond in the most interesting way. It was such a fun and really intriguing conversation we had.
Sometimes for a lot of guests, I feel like you can kind of see what sort of direction you were going in. With them, it was hilarious because they were serious about like telling the stories, but they always had a good joke to go with it, or they always had a crazy story that just came out of nowhere, and you're like, "What? That is amazing! Like, how did you guys come up with that, or how did you live that? Like, it's insane."
Yeah.
And that was one of the first ones that we had actually done remotely, and there was 3 of them. So
Yep.
that was probably pretty crazy. I wasn't on that one specifically, but I listened to it back and I thought it was really good. But it was pretty crazy.
Just to show you how various of topics we were on for that episode, I think 3 things that were mentioned was My Little Pony, Andrew Yang, and I think Guitar Hero.
Yep,
Okay.
and then some festival. What's the festival that was in Atlanta with the dragon? Is it a dragon festival?
Yeah.
Something like that. It was just insane. Yeah. Atlanta's got a lot of great culture behind them, and I'm very excited to go to Atlanta and visit a few of the bars we've done podcasts with there.
That's gonna be real fun. So I want to say over the last year we've exposed ourselves to many new drinks. I did not think that I was going to be this much of a fan, specifically for bourbon. I don't know how you guys have started to perceive alcohol in different ways now.
Yeah, I think bourbon's a good one to kind of touch on because a year ago the only 2 bourbons I'd ever really drank were Maker's Mark and Bullet.
Okay.
And I know that's sad. I'm sure a lot of the people listening on the other side are probably like, "Damn, wow." But now, we've had a bunch of great guests who have given us some of the best alcohol I've ever drank in my life, from Traverse City Whiskey Company in Traverse City, Michigan, to Ghost Coast Distillery
in Savannah, Georgia.
Chicken Cock Whiskey, which we're drinking right now, from Louisville to Kentucky. And I think I've been drinking all those places I just mentioned. I've drank all those, just no rocks or anything, just straight out of not out of the bottle, but out of a glass.
Yep.
And it really has opened my eyes to be like, wow, there's some great bourbons out there, and I can't really drink any of the mainstream ones anymore after having some of our guests.
That's true. I will say something as a sleeper. I'm usually not one to go for gin. I usually just stick to my whiskey and then sometimes vodka, but Lee Spirits, they opened my eyes a little bit. We had them on the podcast. They're from Colorado. Yeah, they make some really, really good gin.
Again, gin is one thing I was always like, oh, it's like a pine tree. but after having...
Dude, pine trees can be really good.
I agree, Dan. All the pine trees I've had in my life have been phenomenal. But Lee Spirits was one of the first times I drank gin. I just actually put that over ice. The Gin Fuego, you should check that out. It's great. It's some gin with a little bit of cayenne pepper in it.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was amazing. So I drank that whole bottle over the span of a few nights. Of course. And just straight over ice, and I was just so amazed how good it is when you get high quality alcohol. You can really drink anything, and all alcohols are great in their own unique way.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I'd say for me, again, when I first started, the only whiskey I knew of, I didn't even know what whiskey was. I just knew Jack Daniels.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
pretty standard. Yeah.
That's like a whiskey, right? That's all I knew was Jack Daniels. Okay, but and I didn't even really like Jack Daniels, and now I was your stereotypical college student, so I would have the Smirnoff Ices and
some Natty Light.
Oh yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do when you're living on a budget. But I would say after a year later, just with everything that I've learned, I've definitely learned to appreciate more than just the mainstream stuff that's out there. So even now, I'd say, I know we haven't done an episode with these guys, but I love me some Monkey Shoulder.
Oh yeah, okay.
That's a good one. It's a good one. But even on top of that, I'm trying new stuff whenever I go to the liquor store. It's still $20, $30 bottles of whiskey, but it's brands that I've never really heard of before. So I've definitely opened my mind up to trying different types of whiskeys.
Yeah, 100%. Being exposed to more drinks, more alcohol, but then also people that are passionate about it and talking about it makes you want to try more drinks. So before there was probably an intimidation factor when I was going to go try something. I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. Whereas now there's a lot more open-mindedness, a lot less skepticism, so much more likely to try unique products now for sure.
And I want to throw this out there really quick. It sounds like we're turning into a bunch of alcoholics. That's not what's happening. So like me, for example, in the past, I would drink to get drunk. Again, I was your standard college person. And I'm now at a point where I'm not going to the liquor store to look for something to get drunk. I'm looking for a new beverage to try out just for the satisfaction of how this might taste compared to a different drink. So I'm not just going out there just to get hammered. I'm doing it to kind of experiment with different types of drinks and kind of figure out what I like, what I don't like.
For sure.
Yeah, and kind of touching on that, I feel the same way. I mean, on most, we don't really drink much, me personally at least, besides on the episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
But
on the episodes.
On that, I mean, we'd like to have 2, maybe 3 drinks depending on the episode, and kind of try a lot of the drinks that a lot of the people we interview send us. So other than that, I mean, we're not turning alcoholic, guys. So don't worry about that.
I'd say our day job keeps us pretty busy.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I say we all probably work like, I don't know, 50 to 60 hours a week minimum. So
not bad. I mean,
I would say it's not bad at all.
No,
I mean, because we all work with one another, and we kind of are our own bosses. So
yeah,
I mean, that's the great thing about working in software, is that you can work anywhere. You can work for yourself if you have the skill set, and then it's always innovative. There's no like limitations to what you can do with software. It's a very creative field. So appreciative for where we're at and the experience we've been given for both our work and with the podcast.
Yep. Sometimes it's hard to work with Dan and Frankie, but
Yeah, okay. Simmer down. Yeah, Joey and I work about 3 feet away from each other.
Yeah, and it gets pretty rough after. Sometimes we have 12, 16-hour days. I look over and see Frankie there. I'm like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Joey's just in the nicest way possible. Yeah. In the nicest way possible.
So this is our year anniversary episode. So let's get into the details. So behind the scenes, So what are something outside of the podcast, what are our favorite traits about each other and least favorite traits about each other?
Oh, this guy's trying to get deep.
We're getting deep.
Favorite least favorite trait. I'll start with Dan first.
Wait, specific to the podcast or just in general? Because we basically live with each other at this point.
Yeah.
Let's just do in general, because the people want to know us.
Okay. All right, that's fair. I'll let Joey go first then.
Well, I mean, the first thing, mine was podcast related. Dan just said 7 times in that sentence, and I mean, that was pretty rough. No, I'm kidding. Favorite trait, Dan he just kind of does a little bit of everything, and he always gets his stuff done 120% of the time, and then after he gets all of his stuff done, he starts working on 9 other things that whether it's an idea he's working on or whether it's just a process or a procedure we're trying to put in place, he'll go above and beyond to really try and do that and help out the team in any way possible.
Yeah.
Frankie, least favorite trait.
Oh yeah.
He's just not funny. That's gotta be my least favorite trait. Like he just tries so hard to be funny. He just isn't. Favorite trait? Yeah, probably don't have one of those. Right?
Yeah, Joey's just not funny. Oh my god.
So I'll start with Joey. Least favorite, but also it's kind of funny, is whenever he's plugged in, he'll start singing some Juice WRLD, and it's hilarious, but it's also really fucking annoying.
Oh yeah.
I get about 5 times a day. Yo, Joey, who sings that song? I'll be like, Juice WRLD, and they'll be like, yeah, let's keep it that way. I'm like, good one, guys.
Just getting roasted.
I'd say my favorite thing about Joey is all of Joe Ebot's amazing stats that he comes up with. I remember there was one day he was talking, I think it was, what was it, like a pancake? There's some specific thing you were talking about, like some cereal or something.
Dude, for pretty much anything, like Joey just retains knowledge at like an inhuman rate. Specifically numbers.
Mostly numbers. Regular stuff doesn't absorb in my brain very well, I would say.
English is not one of those.
English is not one of those. So as you guys can tell, I do not write the social media posts anymore, and that's a good thing.
That is all right. Side note, that's actually switched hands. We've all been on top of the social media at one point or another. It's progressively gotten better. I think Joey, you probably did it from like March of 2020 till July, maybe.
March, April, May, June, July. Probably the first 6 months, I'd say. So
yeah. Okay. And then after that, I was doing it from August-ish until
January?
I'd say
February.
like August 2020 to February 21, and now Dan is killing the social media so much better than
than both of ours.
Yeah, so
both Frankie and I's. If anybody would like to comment on that and be like, no, I mean I think the first 6 months were the best. Feel free to send us a little DM at the _AfterHoursCast.
Yep.
So yeah, feel free to let us know what point you've seen the best social media. We are always
and what do you guys
love
want to see?
feedback.
What do you guys want to see on our social media as well? But that was the progression. Anyway, back to our least favorite quality traits, Dan.
Okay, least favorite quality of Frankie.
Oh God. So many to pick from.
I don't know. I'd probably say my least favorite, and I mean, this is a compliment because I still think it's pretty funny. It's his laugh. He'll go like, ha 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 ha. It was annoying at first, but it grew on me.
Yeah, I'm a little bit like of a troll or like a mood killer. Like if I don't think someone's funny or like you're annoying the hell out of me, I'll just be like, that's so funny, and then just kind of mock the boys. I don't know.
Going back to him not being funny.
Yeah, because like if I can't be funny, no one else can. So like, I just kind of try and ruin the mood sometimes. I'm definitely a bit of a troll in the office,
in the nicest way possible. Like it's always in good fun. We always, again, we're together. Most of us. I mean, we work 8 to 10 hours a day, but we're together pretty much every single day, all day.
Yeah.
We take breaks. We play whatever sports, spike ball,
card games, whatever.
kickball, euchre and Dirac, two great games for the boys. I don't know how many people know about euchre because it is a Midwest type of game, and then Dirac's a Russian card game. Both are trick related games that are fun, and we spend our fair share. And we play competitively when we play cards too. I mean, none of us like losing at anything, so the card games get pretty serious, you could say.
Oh yeah. I mean, with anything, we all want to be like the best at what we do, so it gets pretty heated. I know Dan and I play hockey. Play deck hockey when it's nice out, so spring and fall usually, and that gets pretty competitive too. I know a couple times when it slashed you across the hands or something. On accident, of course.
Cross you up, 5-hole.
Yeah, I'd say my favorite thing about Frankie would probably be whenever, when you're in a software company, you could have some high tensions that here and there. Just it can get difficult, and he's always able to kind of make sure everything's kind of settled down, and he's always really good at understanding what's going on and kind of toning down what's happening. He's really good at just kind of being there for everyone.
Thank you, appreciate that. That's a big one.
I guess that's a good thing about him.
Yeah.
I could say that too.
All right, simmer down, boys. Simmer. No, that's usually just what I say. Like, when the room's getting heated, I'm just like, all right, boys. Like everybody, just like take a break. Fucking go outside, simmer down. Let's turn on an episode of like Silicon Valley or something. Yeah. So
great show on HBO Max. If you want to sponsor us too, we're down for that. I mean, we could definitely do a TV show at the house. We have.
Oh my god.
We're working from home right now due to COVID. So anywhere from 4 to 10 of us are in the office today. All our desks are 6 feet apart down in the basement. We have about 8 of them. So it's it's a good time, and we could definitely put a TV show around it.
Oh yeah. Sure. All right, so I'm gonna start first with Joey. Favorite trait has got to be just the fact that we're roommates at this point, and we work very closely on the business and validation side for a lot of software products. So
pretty much about feed stuff.
No. Basically, every project that comes in, Joey and I are usually working on it together, and if one of us ever needs a helping hand, we help the other one. So that's a pretty solid trait of Joey's, is being available to help others. But I would say...
Oh, no.
No, I'd say your best trait has got to be the fact that it doesn't matter the day or the night or whatever is going on in the office, you can always make the boys laugh. And you're not very funny. You don't try to be funny. You just do dumb stuff around the office that keeps morale high.
Yeah.
So he just might be singing to himself, and it's what is he doing? And then I don't know. He just does some stupid shit sometimes, but it keeps the office really light, and it's enjoyable to work with somebody that is able to make sure not everybody's in a bad mood. So
7 a.m., 1 a.m., anywhere in between. We're just.
It could be 11 a.m., maybe 12 p.m., 12:30.
Dude, we were working
1:32.
We were deploying an application the other night until 3 a.m.
Yep, but I mean, we were all having good fun still, and I think that's super important when you're, you have late days and whatnot, to just keep it light. We also keep it serious, but it's good to have some fun while you're doing it, because if not, I think we'd all be crazy at this point, or at least crazier than we already are.
Oh yeah. Least favorite trait about Joey.
It's gotta be the feet. Well,
yeah, that's just working with him. It's probably got to be like, if he doesn't know something, he just assumes somebody else knows it. And he'll ask me something, I'll be like, dude, like, I don't know. And then just kind of annoys me for a little bit until one of us figures it out. So it's a good thing because it keeps everybody on their toes, but sometimes it is annoying.
I was thinking it'd be something a lot worse. So.
No, nothing too bad. I mean, you make food; it's pretty good. Yeah.
He does make some good noodles.
Yeah, exactly. Makes some pretty good noodles. Dan, best quality trait is that you're literally afraid of nothing. Like, I can't think of a situation that I could put Dan in like a work related setting where he just wouldn't give it his all, and then also be extremely productive. Like when I say like he plugs in, like he puts his headphones in, and he will not know if you're in the room or not, and he can stay plugged in for like 6 hours, no distractions, and he gets everything done on time at a deadline, regardless of what task you assign him.
You literally screaming at him does not work. Sometimes I think one time we have to get like a shovel out of the back and like hit him upside the head to unplug him. Yeah. Like it is that hard. His music doesn't even seem that loud. Like some people say
I'm listening to classical music.
Yeah, some people say they can hear mine through my headphones from what I heard.
Definitely can.
But with Dan's, you can't even hear it. But he's got his like Sony or whatever type of headphones on, like the big, the bulky ones, and you will literally scream. You could be a foot away from him screaming. He will not see you. He will not hear you. He is plugged in.
Yeah. 100%. Least favorite trait about Dan.
Ooh. Let's see it.
So many to choose. No.
I can get sassy.
I would say Dan.
That's a good one.
When it comes to like when the boys are getting rowdy and stuff, Dan definitely throws some chirps around, and he's not afraid to like let it fly once in a while. So reeling him in can be annoying and can be an issue, but for the most part that doesn't happen too often. But he is definitely sassy, especially over text. Over text. Dan is like. Oh man, he's a killer over text. Like you have no idea like what mood he's in.
Yeah,
he's a savage.
He'll send a message and I'll be like, it sounds like he just wants to come and smack me upside the head. He'll get here and be like, "Hi boys." I'm like, "What? Are you sure? Are you sure you want to say hi to me like that? Because I thought we were like ready to fight when you got here."
Yeah, I'm working on it.
It's always a pleasure working with you boys. But I would say like those are probably some traits that annoy me. Especially Joey, when he just listens to music absurdly. That's really annoying.
Gotta stay plugged in. I need to be able to not hear anything or anyone, and it's gotta be 150 volume every time. Yeah. Every time.
When it comes to the podcast, what do you think everyone's greatest strength is? And I'm talking about from like a hosting perspective, because obviously Dan is an absolute beast on like the back end and post production. So, but like actually hosting an episode, I'd say like Joey just is able to relate anything to like a location or a number. One of the two. I mean, if it's a statistic or somewhere that is like someone's traveling to, Joey just knows. I don't know how you're just able to relate shit. Dan, favorite thing about you is that you're able to use like a quirky, offbeat sense of humor and weave it in really well to the podcast in a way that you wouldn't think. So like, I can think of one with Bourbon and Baker.
Is it the Kobe steak?
Yes. I was like, oh no. They're talking about the Kobe steak, which is like a menu item.
Yeah, sorry for everybody that has to listen to this next part.
I thought it was fucking hilarious because I was co-hosting it with him. And you guys are big basketball fans, huh? I see Kobe everywhere on the menu. And I was like dying laughing. And I thought it was really hilarious. So Dan brings a unique perspective to the comedy.
All I'm going to say is like, when it comes to food, I'm the biggest uncultured swine. Like all I eat is frozen burritos and Hot Pockets, so I genuinely didn't know that Kobe steak was a thing.
So this has been something through the past year we've really been working on with Dan, because the rest of us, I mean, we cook here almost every night, and then with kind of the whole group, and then we also go out to eat once or twice a week with everybody. Yeah. And so we've kind of tried to get Dan away from ramen noodles and bean burritos from his past college days, and we've slowly been doing it. This is going to be a 5 to 10 year process, guys, and we're going to really work with him these next years. But so I can see where that's coming from.
Here's the counter argument to that, though, because I'm used to the frozen burritos. So now that I'm trying all these new delicious things, it's like you set the limit so low that when you go to just a restaurant and you order normal food, it feels like I'm at a 5-star restaurant. Mm-hmm. And then like when you go to some really nice establishments, like basically everyone that we've interviewed, it's just a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
That's facts. That's facts.
So I'll go next for this. For Dan, I think his best trait as far as podcasting goes is definitely kind of lightening the mood and being funny and being relatable in the terms of just he's always knows how to crack a joke at the right time or kind of get the people, knows what the people want to hear, I guess.
Yeah,
and then Frankie just can always keep the conversation going. Completely, like, he would never need a script for anything, just somehow can keep it going for 20 hours if we were to do a 20-hour episode. Like, he just has that ability, and I think that's their two biggest strengths as far as the podcast goes.
Thank you. Which is funny, too, because anybody that doesn't know me in real life, I'm, like, the most introverted person.
That's a lie. He's lying.
I mean, I'm pretty introverted. But the thing is, like, it's by design. It's not that I, like, I have, like, poor social etiquette or anything like that. I mean, I was in a fraternity. I did, sports, and I was in clubs all throughout, high school and college. It's just that I just really enjoy being alone or in smaller groups than in larger groups. But
yeah.
So that's why I like doing this podcast. Has been a pretty big step for me, just in terms of being able to meet new people and vocalize opinions and have really great dialogue.
And there was one.
And there's one. Okay, so I'll start off with Frankie. I think best thing about Frankie is he's just able to really he has really great interview skills. He's able to know the right questions to ask, and he's really good about knowing who he's interviewing and really just getting their full story on who they are and why it is that they're doing, and their whole story about just everything that they've done and who they are as a brand. He's really good at being able to relate that information and put it into the form of a podcast. Nice. And then I would say with Joey, if you get Joey in front of the right person, he's able to relate with them so well. If you get him in front of the wrong person, we'll talk about that another day. But like him and our boy John Ansa over at the Heights, you put those two guys together and they're just
we could talk for 3 weeks straight about whatever, like politics, what's happening in the world, sports, bars, drinks, just anything. John is also, actually look out for John. He'll be doing a few guest episodes soon. He's the food and beverage director, as Dan said, over at the Heights. And he just knows a lot about the industry, has been in it for a long time. And I think you guys will enjoy him being a guest host for some of the upcoming episodes.
Yeah, that'll be sweet. I'm really excited for that.
And this is a pre-shout out. I might have to cut this because I don't know if I'm allowed to say it or not. But John is also planning on starting his own podcast, so be on the lookout for that in the future.
I'd leave that in. That sounds good. Yeah. I mean, if you want to get more in depth than like what we already do, I mean, John can take it to a whole nother level in terms of like the business side and running, multiple establishments. He currently runs 2 within the Renaissance Hotel here in Toledo, so Brimhouse and the Heights. So he has a lot of knowledge when it comes to like actually operating,
as well as the banquet room.
Yes, in the banquet room. Yeah,
yep.
Yeah.
So he's extremely knowledgeable in that space.
So just like imagine our podcast, but really good.
Yeah. All right, but
I'm kidding.
I think that's actually something that like when we interview people, they are able to command the conversation.
Yeah.
Because we really don't know that much. We're getting better, obviously, with every episode, but we are still pretty amateur when it comes to the food and beverage industry. I've only held one job in the food and beverage industry. I don't think either of you guys have, right?
No.
Have you? Dan?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So we were absolutely just. We were just rookies when we started, but we've come a long way, I feel like.
So yeah, it's good because like we're able to tell it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
So for anyone that might be listening, where maybe they don't know as much as anyone else, you're getting it from the perspective of someone who might be in the same position.
The very first step was getting Frankie to stop drinking Natty Light. That was the very first one. After that, everything went smooth.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, I guess while we're on that topic of what we drink or what we used to drink, on a night out, right? Let's just say like who's most likely to get blacked out?
Oh,
between us 3.
Not a good question.
Why?
Because it's probably me.
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened in so long. Like, I mean, it's been like 2 years, 3 years probably.
Oh yeah. I don't say it's been years for me, but
I mean. If maybe at my boy's bachelor party or something, I mean, it's a possibility that may happen. I obviously do it safely in a hotel room, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Wedding season's coming up.
Wedding season is coming up. I actually have a few to go to. Very excited. Shout out to my boys.
Yep.
Didn't cut that.
Oh man. All right, but like on a night out, right? If us three are going out, who's most likely to? Oh man, I say like who's most likely to get something crazy off the menu? Like who's getting like some drink we've never heard of at a bar?
Okay, 2 things to that.
Okay.
1, speaking of drinks we've never heard of, we had a recent guest, as you boys probably know, Firefly, just opened up in Toledo, Ohio. It's this kind of upscale, kind of New York style, or even more like Vegas style, mixed with the Toledo culture type of bar. And I tried a drink recently that was a Buzz Button.
Oh yeah.
Very, very unique. So there's this little flower they give you. It kind of looks like a dandelion to start off. It like numbs your mouth, and then you take a sip of the drink, and it's like Pop Rocks. So that was very, Frankie just kind of asked that question, but
Yeah.
it was very interesting. One of the most interesting drinks I've had anywhere in the United States I've been.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. We had the pleasure of trying that the day after we recorded the podcast, so we got to hear all about it. And then the next day we went in and we tried it. So that was pretty crazy, because it's like when you go to the dentist or something, they numb your entire mouth. That's what it's like when you eat the bud of this flower. So you're really confused for a second. You let it sit in there for what, like 20, 30 seconds?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and then you start drinking like an alcoholic beverage, and it like makes your mouth like Pop Rocks and tingling sensation. It's very weird.
Yep.
And I really gotta go out to Firefly.
Yeah, you gotta try.
Yeah,
that
you definitely have to try it.
That one's good.
As far as on any night out, that's a hard one. I'm sorry, Dan, but Dan pretty much just gets. If we're going out, he gets something. I don't want to say simple, but if somebody orders a drink, he'll be like, "Yeah, I'll also take that."
Yeah,
it's true.
So I would say me or Frankie.
I said probably Joey.
Just because like I just like trying new stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing like super crazy. I don't think any of us really do any. Like if it's a first time going to a place, I'll usually get one drink that's super crazy and then one of their very simple drinks.
Yeah.
To kind of check out how the bartenders are. And kind of see how that establishment operates, and then also get something crazy to see what like a high end or like a crazy drink looks like on that menu.
For sure. I was gonna say, in terms of like guests that we've had on the podcast, whenever we get off a podcast and it's like a food, or it's like a restaurant or a bar that serves food,
So hungry
every single time. It didn't matter if we eat beforehand or if we plan on eating after. Like we are
during.
But no, yeah, like there are some places that like we really need to go to. I can think of one, Pickleback Bar.
Oh yeah,
up in Michigan.
Making me hungry right now just talking about it.
Man, like those fried pickles and that was the pickled Reuben.
The pickled Reuben.
Oh
my gosh, just thinking of that. They're in Marnie, Michigan.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to make a trip up there soon.
Yeah, that's not too far either. That's
not too far.
It's not too bad.
It's not too far, but
3 hours?
It's about like 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5.
Will they be open at 10:45?
But no, as Frank said, every single bar or restaurant.
In McGillen's, when they were talking about like the what was it, the Irish food that they were providing during the month of March, dude. Like,
so amazing. But yeah, we always get off so hungry.
That's one of the worst parts about doing the podcast. 100%. Well, in terms of looking into like 2021 and the next year, boys, what are some goals, or what are some things we'd like to do on the podcast, or even not even in the podcast, just the food and beverage industry, really?
Yeah. So right now, this is kind of a goal we've set. So right now we're in the top 25% of podcasts on all platforms. We want to get up to be the top 3 to 5% by the end of next year. So we really just want to increase our visibility. And
so just get us on the Joe Rogan podcast. That's fun.
But yeah, we just want to have more people listening, whether it's bar owners, restaurant owners, people in college, or just anyone really. We just want to make sure everybody hears it, and we can kind of expand people's knowledge in this industry like we have ourselves.
And going off of that, there's so many amazing stories that you wouldn't necessarily expect when talking to all these leaders in the food and beverage industry. There's so many really cool things you wouldn't expect going into it, and just learning about how it's all really a community and how everyone really is able to help each other out is really amazing. And I'm just really looking forward to meet all of the upcoming people and establishments that we're going to be interviewing in the future, and just learning, listening to their stories, recording it for everyone to hear. And it's been really interesting, just going back on the last year with Corona, being able to document everything that's been going on through this epidemic, and being able to hear everyone's stories about how they've had to deal with what's been going on.
Yeah, it was a really weird time. We decided to start a podcast, centered around food and beverage industry, because with COVID, one of the industries that was hit the hardest was obviously restaurants, bars, breweries, distilleries. I mean, anything where people were going out for social gatherings are hit pretty hard. So actually, originally when we started this, our first 6 episodes that we did were all in person. And that's how we actually started, was in Toledo in Michigan, just doing, like Joey said earlier, bars that we either knew people at, whether they worked there or they were like a relative, or we had friends, or like we just were regulars there. And then we actually transitioned I would say pretty swiftly. We were able to start reaching out, and we started, spreading our wings and, going outside of just the Midwest. And actually, obviously for like a lot of food and beverage industries, it was terrible, but to make us transition and pivot the way that we did, COVID definitely helped us grow in a way that I didn't expect, because we would have never had the chance to interview all these great establishments all over the world. And for 2021, going into 2022, one thing that I want to do is more bars, breweries, distilleries abroad, whether that's Europe, Asia, down in Australia or New Zealand. It's always really, really fun to get a fresh perspective, and all of our listeners seem to really enjoy hearing what it's like through different regulations, laws, social norms, social drinks at different parts of the world. So I really want to do some more abroad, personally.
Yeah, and every episode we've done abroad so far, I mean, I've had a great time personally, because you just learn so much from different people in different parts of the world that you don't really get a chance to talk to other than either visiting there or listening on some sort of platform like this one.
Yep, 100%.
All right, now a goal I have, I don't think we're going to reach it, but boy, would it be cool, would be to have some sort of beverage named after the AfterHours podcast. I think that would be so freaking sweet.
That would be tight. I'm trying to think.
Yep.
I mean, in an ideal world, me personally, I think I want that to be a beer.
A beer?
I know it's probably a hot take, but when I think just like casual drinking, I want somebody to just be able to put back 4 podcasts.
So I agree with that.
I got a 6-pack of podcasts in the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I love that, but also, I mean, why stop with beer? I would want one, a beer, a bourbon.
No. You got to focus in on.
You got to pick one.
That is true. That is true. And the only reason I say that is because we have so many. We have some connections who I think would love to help us try to, whether it's a limited line or whether it's a long-term product that I would just love to partner with and get the opportunity to have that sort of relationship with, and I think it'd be great.
It would be great, Joey.
Yeah, this is the worst part about doing a podcast with Joey. Is sometimes he starts off like a thought or a sentence like immaculately strong, or it's just like it's a great concept, and then you get halfway through the sentence and it's just like a runaway car. And I just,
my brain shuts down. I think
I'm trying to reel it back in.
I got a concussion about 2 months ago, guys, 3 months ago. So if you realize, like, dang, what is this kid going crazy? I'm not going crazy. I just got a concussion. So
okay, literally funniest moment though during a podcast was Joey was in Florida and I was up here in Toledo. And we were interviewing Spotted Owl out in Cleveland, which is where Joey's from. So it was unfortunate he wasn't up here, because we probably would have done that one in person. But I mean, the guy that we had interviewed, who was the owner, his vocabulary, I mean, just out of this world.
We're talking
like words I've never even heard
MBA
of.
like doctorate type level.
Oh yeah, like this guy was the most well-read person I've ever spoken to, probably. And this was like during Joey's concussions, like I think the night before you got stitches, right?
This was like literally, or no, the night after I got stitches.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, makes sense.
And Yeah, you can finish. I mean,
no, I mean, like, yeah, it was crazy because I was struggling to keep up, and I was in a right frame of mind, no injuries, no post traumatic stress or concussions going on, and Joey's just texting me during this episode. He's like, man, like I'm lost. He's like, dude, you got to carry this conversation out here because I'm struggling.
I'm not gonna lie, it was one of the hardest things I've done, just because it was like one day after a concussion, and I was just sitting there. This dude is using 16-letter words, and I have 16 brain cells left in my head.
You can see why that would be a problem.
But again, like one of the best guests we had, because we were talking about like space, like we were talking about like the philosophy of like life and like how he deals with like a lot of stress, and on top of all of the great knowledge he brought to the forefront for specifically cocktails and how he operates and the menu changes and how everybody is appealing to different drinks. But it was that was a great podcast. But man, like I just try to carry that one because Joey was not in a great space. It was just funny though, because it was just.
Yeah, we're definitely, and kind of going off of that, we are getting to the point to where we're going to start some round 2 podcasts with a lot of different people we've already interviewed, so I'm super excited for that. Guys, I don't know if you have... We've been in contact with a few people I know ready to do episode 2, but what are some, like, part 2s that you guys are looking forward to?
Well, I will just touch on the fact that we have done one already, and that was with John Ansa at the Heights. Just because he is local, and we've grown a really great relationship with him. Like I said, he's going to be a guest host here pretty soon. Probably within the next month or 2, you'll probably see him on a podcast. So like garnishing and having that relationship was awesome. He was on, I think, for our 40th episode. He was second round 2, and it was great to hear how his business has grown and adjusted during COVID. But second part 2 that I would love to have on going forward is Proof Alcoholic Ice Cream. They were phenomenal to have on, and Jen, their CEO and founder, really innovative, really smart, and could talk to her about anything. So look forward to having them back on the podcast. Dan?
For me, I gotta say it's a tie between Joystick Game Bar and then Still It over with Jesse. I think those would be 2 really good ones to do another episode with again. Just Joystick Game Bar, just a bunch of really fun guys to talk to. Just never a dull moment during that episode. And then Still It, Jesse. He's just really, really informal dude about just anything about distilling. Really good content there. I really enjoyed our interview with him.
Yep. And then if didn't mention it already, one thing that we were doing for 2021 was launching our new website, which is completely not rebranded, still the same brand, but it's redesigned. It's a lot more user friendly, especially when it comes to finding specific episodes, using like keywords to search them, and a lot more user friendly, and it's a lot easier to navigate, and it just looks kick ass. So make sure to check out our new website. That'll be coming up in the next week, right? So that'll be awesome. A lot of great media on there. Joe English, he designed the website, and he also took all the photography. So that's pretty awesome. So make sure to check that out.
And where can you find that, Frankie?
You can find that at the AfterHoursCast.com. Absolutely. And then all of our socials for Instagram at the _ after _ cast, and then Facebook AfterHoursCast. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we asked this question to a lot of our guests, and I think it's a really great one. But we usually ask, what do you wish you'd have known when you first started? So Frankie, Dan, what is one thing you wish you'd have known when you first started this podcast?
The podcast? Oh, man. I wish I had known, I guess, like, what I didn't know, but more realistically, like, I guess I wish I would have known how to conduct an interview. My background was in pharmaceutical science, and then I switched over to business, and now I'm getting my MBA. So not a lot of interpersonal communication skills. So I just wish I just knew how to conduct an interview better. And also, like Dan said earlier, just saying So all of those, I just wish I was better at that. And that's something that anybody starting off, you can start off knowing that, hopefully, with those tips, and just try to be more cognizant of using the words that you're trying to convey when talking to somebody.
So for me, one thing I wish I would have known more going into this. So I mean, again, I am like my main go-to thing is to do all the producing. I do hosting, I'd say 25% of the time.
Mm.
But like with that being said, I still wish I would have known more about the food and beverage industry, just because it becomes that much easier to interview people when you know what you're talking about. And obviously I know a lot more now, but it was definitely a little harder to try and relate at the beginning when you didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So that's definitely why I let Frankie and Joey do a lot of the talking for like the first few episodes.
Joey?
Whew. I asked this question. I probably should have thought of an answer for myself. I guess for me it would be one thing, the industry knowledge, definitely. That was something we kind of knew would come, though. As far as the interview skills, not necessarily pausing, but kind of thinking about the next thing you're going to say and telling yourself to say the question better using this way or that way is definitely super useful, or cutting out a lot of the filler words would definitely be the 2 to 3 things that I really have focused on in the past year, and I wish I would have known and been better at when we first started.
I think all of us, we've gotten better about how we approach potential guests and our general outreach in general. We've been constantly getting better, but in the beginning we really had no idea how to approach these individuals that were, the founder of a brewery, or the director of food and beverage at an establishment, or somebody that even was founded an establishment or a bar or restaurant, whatever. We were pretty bad in the beginning in terms of outreach.
Yeah, and another good thing, I mean, now we get, I would say every 2 to 3 weeks we get people reaching out to us, if not even more often than that, even sometimes multiple times a week.
Yep.
And so it's nice kind of having that to where people are wanting to be on our show, and it kind of shows we've done a pretty good job in the past year of building what we have.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, inbound marketing is way more fun than outbound marketing.
Completely unrelated, but Dan, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, definitely agree with that statement. Since we were all college students, a couple of years ago, and we still like to go out and have a good time, how has COVID put like a wrench in the cogs for you guys? And then also in terms of going out, do you guys find yourself still doing that, or do you guys have plans to go out after COVID?
For me personally, I don't really go out too much anymore. I think one factor in that's kind of getting older, being busy with the business and everything. But on top of that, I think COVID has played a big role in that. For me, I like talking to people. I like talking to different groups of people and kind of being everywhere all at once. And you can't really do that during COVID. So for me, it just kind of like not really no reason to go out, but we still grab food often, but we don't really go and like, oh, I'm going to grab drinks like here and then go here and like go bar hopping, kind of like we used to back in college.
But I will say now, because it is pretty scarce when like we go out, whether it's because of work or because of COVID, I really do enjoy it much more. I'd say we probably go out as a group probably like once a month, and we actually just like go out and have a good time. So it makes those experiences a lot more meaningful. And even though COVID is kind of being a bitch, hopefully soon it'll be over. And I don't know if I'm gonna go out more often. Probably not. I still enjoy just going out like once or twice a month. But it's actually pretty great to see when you go out the establishments that were able to pivot, and they're doing, on-the-go drinks, on-the-go food. They're having like select menu items that are not normally there, and they're providing services, and they're catering to their guests. So I actually don't mind it too much. I don't think too much is going to change on my end.
I'd say for me, I went out every once in a while in the past, and then when Corona happened, that definitely put a stall on things. But it's, I'll, like Frankie said, we might go out once a month or whatever that time frame might be. One thing I think I like the idea of going out to a bar. I think once the Corona is over, I look forward to going out a little more. But I think one thing that would help with that is I'm really bad at being the person to make the decision. So I think when we get bar crawl out,
facts,
and I could see when my friends are going out, it'll make it that much easier for me to be able to see what's going on, see like what friends are going out, who's going out when. So that way I don't have to do any of the inviting, but I can see what's going on and I can join a bar crawl.
There you go. It's a lot of stress. I mean, putting together an entire night for your friends. You obviously want to make sure everyone's having a good time, everyone's being safe, and it's a lot of stress being that person that has to orchestrate, that operation for the night out. So hopefully bar crawl makes it a little bit easier. You're messaging your friends the entire night. You see where they're at, and then obviously nobody can be mad when you say, hey, like the UFC fight's on here, or if you're with a different group of people and you're like, hey, happy hour shots over X, Y, and Z. So I think it's a really great way for everyone to see what's going on and everyone stay safe and everyone have a good time, because nobody wants to be that guy that conducts a night out and it's not very good. We've all been there. So
yeah,
it's not fun. Thank you guys for listening, and obviously check out our new website. Check out all of our socials. It's been great to sit down with the co-hosts, all three of us. It's not very often this happens, but we want to hear a lot more user feedback and listener feedback. So please check out the website, and please reach out to us, email us. Anything on social media, especially Instagram. Let us know what you guys want to hear, or if there's any hot questions that you guys want us to answer. We would love to answer them. We love talking about the show and what we do. So we'd love to answer them. And if there's anybody that you want to see on the podcast in the near future, tag them, tag us. We'll make it happen. And really appreciate your guys' support throughout the last year. And we look forward to having another one of these retrospectives, maybe 6 months from now, or definitely within a year. Yep. So thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you next week.
All right, After Hours Nation, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to stay updated, you can check out our site at afterhourscast.com. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday morning for our next episode. After Hours Nation, stay thirsty, my friends.